Hello and welcome to the Primetimers. I'm your host, Marty Moore. Our guest today is the appliance doctor, Joe Gannon. And maybe you've seen Joe on here on Livonia Television talking to you about things to make your house safe and things that are not going to be safe. Well, we have another situation rolling right now, and it has to do with
Samsung top-load washing machines.
all right, Dr. Joe Gannon.
Yes.
In one of your recent columns, you talked about a lady who was having a big problem with her washing machine. Can you give us a little backstory on this?
Well, this lady has had a Samsung top-load washing machine purchased from Lowe's, I believe. She lives in Hudson, Michigan. And I got in touch with her here a few months back because Samsung announced a recall on their top-load washing machines because the tops were actually blowing off I'm not talking about the lid now, I'm talking about the whole top would blow up off the machine, spin around and hit the ceiling, bolts and nuts and wires, and people suffered injuries.
Wow.
So Samsung reluctantly announced a recall on 2.8 million of these washers.
My.
And this lady, Kathy from Hudson, had one of these machines, and we want her to talk about her period of time that she had to go without a washer and the amount of phone calls she made. This is only one consumer out of 2.8 million. And the recall simply said, stop using your top-load washing machine made by Samsung and we will repair it. Now, how do you repair 2.8 million washing machines
Very
overnight?
carefully.
You know?
I would think very carefully.
We're going to hear from Kathy. She's here today.
Kathy Ledenberger, and she is from Hudson.
Yes.
And she's had quite an experience.
And that's just one, Marty.
Yeah.
That's just one out of two. What do all the other women and men who own one of these, what do they have to go through?
Now, are there problems with other brands also? Or is this just Samsung?
No, this is just this particular washer.
A specific model.
But
then.
there are millions of recalled appliances right now in American homes that people do not even know they're under recall.
I was shocked. I never heard about this Samsung
Well, there's
recall.
some 8 million dishwashers under recall in the last 10 years. 8
Whoa.
million. And the thing about it is, when they announce a recall like this, their obligation is to make sure it's announced in the newspapers and on television, radio.
I saw nothing.
One time. Only one time must they do this by law. So if you're not watching TV or not listening to the radio station on that particular day, you miss it completely.
That's wrong. That is so wrong. What's being done to remedy this problem?
Not a thing.
Well, maybe it's time for Joe Gannon to get to work. I know when you decide you're going to work on something, you work on it. You know the right legislators and this type of thing. We're going to take a break, and I'll be introducing you to Kathy Ledenbacher, and she is from Hudson. She is going to tell us one story. You won't believe it. We'll be right back with the Primetimers.
Got a quarter?
Welcome back to the Primetimers. My guests today are really busy in the washing machine department. Kathy Ledenberger is here from Hudson, and Joe Gannon is the appliance doctor. And I want to mention, too, that you have a Sunday morning show with WTKA, that's 1050 on the AM dial. The ticket, Sunday mornings.
8 to 10.
It's a date, right? And he'll fix your refrigerator right over the radio. I kid you not. Kathy, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having
You
me.
are the, should I say, infamous washing machine lady that, or shall I say, famous? Let's say famous, because you finally did something about it. Consumers don't know what to do when they're given a bad trip, what I call a bad trip, and a lot of them. I wanted you to tell us more. Joe spoke with us about some of the things you've been through. But tell us about your washing machine and the hoops you had to jump through just to get a phone call, for goodness sake.
Right, right. Well, I just started out with, I went to go do some laundry and it was making an awful noise. And I'm like, oh, not now, So I called a repairman and they referred me back to the person that I bought it from. So I called Lowe's. And then Lowe's looked it up and they said they have a repairman, but they can't send him out. And I'm like, okay, so why is that? And they said, because your wash machine is on recall. And no one will touch your wash machine unless you have the recall fixed.
Oh,
And I'm
my
like,
gosh.
Okay, so can you give me the information?
Some name, a number.
Right, and they said, well, call back. So, because the lady on the phone that worked in the department didn't know. So I'm like, okay, if you don't know, then who does? So I ended up talking to a manager. And then they did send out they had Samsung call me. So Samsung actually called me. This is the brand I bought. And they called me and they set up at a time for the recall to be fixed, which was actually, pretty prompt at that time. And they did come out within a week and they repaired their portion. But because of their portion that broke, it broke the entire wash machine.
Oh, gee.
So they only wanted to fix the recall.
I don't mean
So
to
meanwhile, the
laugh, but
recall
it
is
just sounds like
fixed, and
comedy
now
of errors. Huh?
yeah. So the recall they fixed, and then after that, I still was left with a broken wash machine.
Oh my God.
Yeah, due to the recall. So I asked
so
them.
there you are. You had no washing machine.
Yeah, nothing.
Of course, well, they did try and get some of this done, but I don't think I'm getting the whole story. You've been reimbursed for your washing machine, but there's another dilemma that you're dealing with as the end result of this washing thing, right?
Time. And I had to contact, I went through like 15 people through Samsung.
Oh, no.
At least over 10 hours, because I started keeping a log, because you had to, I started keeping a log of all the times, who I talked to, who hung up on me.
Good idea.
Yeah, and it's a
idea.
very good thing to do. That way you know who you talk to, because I'm always bad about that. Even like, gosh, I can't remember their name, always write it down.
Well, I think that's most of us. I mean, it's a name we're going to hear hopefully only once, but it didn't seem to work out that way.
And many of the phone calls were to foreign countries.
You wouldn't think it was, but yeah, when they get on the phone, I would actually ask. I said, where are you from? And they go, the Dominican Republic. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then,
So they're handling all this big stuff for Samsung, right?
right. And now who else was handling things for Samsung was a company called DirecTV. Now, the DirecTV to me is a
That's
cable company.
television,
I
right?
know. So here's a truck in my driveway. I'm going, I don't even have cable, because where I live, I have no TV or internet. So I was wondering why maybe they were lost.
Yeah, well, that could
So
be.
I go out there and they go, we're here to repair your wash machine. I'm going, what? And they said they hired DirecTV to fix my wash machine.
Oh, what have they
So
got
I
to
was
do with
hoping I could.
washing machines?
I was hoping by the time they left that I could actually tune into some TV shows, but it didn't work through the wash
That-
machine. It's kind of funny after a
What
while.
happened is, you got to remember, they got 2.8 million washing machines to fix overnight.
Right.
So they're not going to find 2.8 million service technicians. So they hired this television cable company and showed them how to do the simple repairs to repair this recall problem. And so now they've got TV people pretending to be appliance repair people.
Well, and they have, can they do it? I don't know legally. Is that
Yes,
something
they can
do?
legally, but it just goes to show you, and let me give you some of my disgust over this whole thing. Here's a company based in South Korea and China, making products and selling them into this country. And apparently it's not a very good product.
Guess not.
But they have little recognition of the American customer satisfaction standard. Now, the guy who fixed it from the cable television, that's all he was shown. Now, there was another problem with the washing machine, which he couldn't fix because he's not trained to fix it, doesn't have the parts to fix it, and so forth. So she's left again with a washing machine. For how long a period did you go without a washing machine?
Almost 2.5 months.
That's a long, long time. And in the meantime, where are we doing all this laundry?
At the laundromat.
Laundromat, yeah.
$4 a load.
Oh, Kathy, that's terrible.
That's just a wash now. That's another $3.50 to $4 to dry.
And plus lugging it there.
Time. It's time.
I
Because
mean,
a normal,
you don't have a laundromat, you know, next door or
right?
anything.
No,
Yeah.
and you have to go there. You have to stay there.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part. But for the consumer, and back to the TV thing, if Samsung would have put it on TV, like you said, and told people that there was a recall, not just the one time, you would know. But if you did not register your machine, which most people don't, because once you get your machine, you get that paperwork and you put it away.
Yeah, I'll do it later.
Yeah, you didn't register your machine, you would not know, which I did not know, because obviously I didn't register my machine.
That there was
So-
even a recall.
Right,
Oh,
so
my
when I
God.
called Lowe's and they told me, now since I bought it from Lowe's, and if I was in Lowe's position, I would be on my list of who bought my wash machines and let them know in good faith that Samsung has a recall. That would make
Yeah.
Lowe's look like a star, but no,
They missed the boat on that one,
they
huh?
did.
So here you are, wanting to purchase a new washer, but there's still a problem.
The problem is that there's a color change.
Oh,
I know. I called Joe and I said, Joe, please tell me if I'm being picky, because most washer and dryers are usually in someone's basement. Well, mine happen to be in the center of their home, which, you know,
It's part of your decor.
it is part of my decor, and I actually got a colored one, so I have like a charcoal gray. So now that I've actually gotten to the point where they're going to reimburse me with a long haul of getting there with Joe, actually Channel 7.
Wow.
I had to go through the hoops just to get this taken care of, to actually get reimbursed, and I had to really fight for it.
Huh.
But it was the color scheme that I was trying to have.
So now
And-
what?
I had to go back to Lowe's to buy another machine,
Oh,
and now they don't sell the same color.
The same shade of gray.
Yeah, not
Okay.
the same shade.
holy
If I had white,
cow.
it would be, you know, I could go with a different kind, but not the same shade.
That's
So
not
now
what
I
you
have two different
wanted.
color of
I
machines
mean,
now.
you paid your money, and
I
they're
bought them
not.
as a set.
They're
and-
not cheap.
Yeah, I bought them as a set, and I was hoping to get
A
'em
set. Okay, now we're pushing a couple $1,000, $1,500.
Yes,
That's a
absolutely.
big investment. Well, Joe, how have you been able to help Kathy after hearing about this situation?
Well, simply by giving her directions and asking her to be persistent. But I didn't know she's going to have to be that persistent, because over 10 hours on the telephone talking to
That's
people
ridiculous.
in another country who you can't understand, they can't understand you. They don't have the same degree of apology that the manufacturers should have.
Yeah.
But she did it on her own, I might add. She's been a star on my radio show 7 times, 7 Sundays in a row.
How did you manage to get in?
Yeah, and she's been a star on the radio show, and it's been a story, a continuing story.
You have a saga going here.
Right, really, like a serial, you know?
Stay tuned.
Eh,
Right. Oh, it was a
But-
stay tuned.
But I'm very proud of her for doing all of this on her own. what bothers me most is what are other people going to do in the same kind of position?
Yeah, I mean, it's like they send you a book, and then you call the company, and then even if you ask to speak to the manager, you won't. They have excuses. I went through this with the stove, so.
I could have been the one that hurt, though.
Yeah.
I could have gotten hurt if I did nothing.
Well, I mean, your family around, your pets, wrecking the house. I mean, you're spending a lot of time fixing this place up, and here you're going to have all that flying through the
And
air.
I might add that,
Dangerous.
2.8 million machines under recall. The top blows up, and the warning sign to that is you start hearing a pounding, like Kathy described, like a hammer on the side of the cabinet, bang, bang, bang. You start hearing that, then you know the support rods inside the machine are going bad, and they're going to break,
They break
and
loose.
that's when the top blows up, and there's been like a broken, I've read some of the things that are sent to the Product Safety Commission. Head knocks, cuts on the noggin, okay? One guy suffered a broken leg, all from the top of a machine.
Oh, my
And there's
gosh.
bolts and nuts flying everywhere.
And how many are out there?
2.8 million.
Holy
Some 4 or 5 years of production on this product.
What is it going to take?
It takes a new label. So when they came and fixed the machine and did the recall, they actually peeled off a new label, stuck it on my wash machine, and told me not to use the heavy load button anymore. That's their fix.
Great.
So if you had a bedspread, you couldn't use it.
And bedspreads.
You could
and
not.
All kind of
You
things.
couldn't use it. So I'm going,
Yeah, the
That's-
laundromat, $4.50.
I'm like, that's not a fix. That's
No.
dangerous.
No, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's
But
not
what
fair.
happened in the end here to Kathy is that I think she put enough pressure on them that somebody at headquarters said, this lady is nothing but a pest. Get rid of her.
Probably,
and I think that's
sure.
how she got her money back from Samsung.
But you got to nag them.
Holy, 10 hours on the phone?
Finally, after Channel 7 and Joe got a hold of Samsung, and they knew that I was talking to him and also the Channel 7, within 10 minutes, within
minutes.
10 minutes, they called me back.
Oh, how nice.
Finally, after 10 hours
Oh,
of on the
yeah.
phone, day after day after day.
And this happens with refrigerators, stoves, multiply that. And just in our little area, it's a dangerous thing to be involved with. A machine that's not going to, especially the washer blowing up, but an oven that doesn't work, or a refrigerator that is not keeping your food safe.
So the whole reason that I listen to Joe's show is for that reason, because I trust you and I believe in what you're saying, and then I know it's true. You
I've known
cannot
Joe.
hear anything else, you know.
I've known Joe a lot of years. I mean, we really need appliance doctors, somebody who's up on this stuff. Because as an individual, we're not going to go and pour through books and look for things on the computer or keep an eye on what big business is doing. And they get away with it.
You know, I might add, a lot of people watch Primetimers, and you're very well known. And I suggest to anybody watching this television show that they tell their friends, they tell their family, and they talk about this Samsung problem. Because
Sure.
there's people right now listening and watching this and knowing for the first time
That
what,
there's a recall.
That's right.
And that is dangerous.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Basically, if you hear a knock, call Joe.
yeah, right.
Yeah, right. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with the, what shall we call it? The washing machine saga by Samsung. We'll get them. We'll be back.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same, Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
We're back with Primetimers, my guest Kathy Leidenberger and Joe Gannon. We're talking about washing machines that blow up and a few other problems that you as the consumer are putting up with. There's a way to get after these guys, and it's not like it's the first time we're dealing with washing machine companies. Joe, you had a rather lengthy and still problem with mold.
Yeah, the mold problem started 20 years ago when they built the first front-load washing machines by Maytag.
Yeah.
And if you'll remember, Maytag's reputation was great for quality. Well, they destroyed all of that by building a front-load washing machine that had a mold problem, a stink problem, and they couldn't get rid of it.
Oh.
And they tried. And they ended up with a recall of 4 million front-load washing machines.
Whoa.
And that cost them a pretty penny. But that destroyed their reputation for quality.
Yeah.
And then other manufacturers came along and developed their own front-load washing machine. And to this day, I still talk to several people a month who still have a stink problem, a mold problem on new front-load washing machines. So be careful what you're buying.
Oh my God.
Because I've known people who...
20 years and it's still a problem.
It's still a problem.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But there are other issues on major home appliances. There's recalls on... well, 8 out of 10 people do not know there's a recall on their appliance in their home.
Like which one?
Well, all of them, basically.
Yeah.
Dishwasher's a big one. Over 8 million dishwashers under recall in the last 10 years.
And what do they look for?
The model number. Go to saferproducts.gov on the computer and just type in your model number, and you'll know if your clothes dryer, your washer, your dishwasher, your microwave oven, you'll know if they're under recall. And there are other problems which are not under recall, which happen to a lot of people. The products catch fire.
Oh my.
The products catch fire without announcing it. There's no recall on it, and they I have a stove. It was used in the cottage. The burner comes on by itself.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
That
So
could
we
be
have
it.
a rule at home. No paper, no nothing goes in the microwave, because that happens to them as well, okay? No product goes on top of the stove when it's not you in the kitchen, and you've got to be careful about all. And these things happen constantly, but we seldom hear newspapers or television shows on these subjects when there should be more like what you do, Marty. Primetimers, right here in Livonia.
Well, thank goodness to Livonia Television
Yeah.
and my producer, Chris Nielsen. We're aware of these things, and of course my job is mostly to inform seniors about things that it could be very dangerous for us.
Yes.
And I truly appreciate you coming to give us this little talk, and especially Kathy's story. I bet there's a lot of people say, the same thing happened to me. So like, what advice? What advice? Give us a little roadmap. That would be the place that you mentioned before about who to call.
Yeah, the Consumer Protection Division.
Consumer
Yeah.
Protection Division.
Yeah, that's in Washington.
Okay.
And also, the first thing you should do is get a hold of the retailer that you sold you the product. That
Yes.
person, that company made the money on that sale.
Yes.
And that's the person that should be helping you if they want your business to come back to them. Or do
You
they,
would think so.
Or do they mind losing you as a customer? Okay?
Yeah.
That's the first place you go.
Yeah.
Lowe's lost me as a customer right now.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that because I know they do a pretty good job. And for people who would like to maybe talk to Joe personally, Sunday morning's the time, right?
Sunday morning, 8 to 10 o'clock on WTKA 1050 on the dial. That's in Ann Arbor. It's a big sports station. Covers everything sports for U of M. So, last week, some guy called from North Carolina, okay? Yeah, so people from out of state listen as well. But I'm there to help people. That's 35 years I've been on radio, and I just love helping people. That's what
Like
it's
I-
all about.
Like I said earlier, I have listened to your program, and someone would call in about a refrigerator, and you say, well, what kind is it? Da-da-da-da. Be prepared to fix your own refrigerator via the radio and the appliance doctor, Joe Gannon. Kathy, I'd like to thank you for sharing your story with us. Maybe it'll help somebody else
Yes, I
get them
hope
on the
so.
right track. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you,
you.
Marty.
And we'll see you next time on the Primetimers.